It is no secret, I love to make amigurumi and crocheted plushies, and I have been crocheting amigurumi for almost 3 years now. And over the course of those almost 3 years, I have accumulated a pile of tools and materials that I think are essential to my amigurumi making process. So in today's video, we're going to be going over the 10 items that I personally absolutely have to have when making any crocheted toy. So this video is going to be broken into two sections. First up is the essentials. These are going to be the things that I absolutely have to have while making any amigurumi. The second section is a holy cow, these are game changer tools. And these are the things that aren't necessarily necessary, but have totally helped, and I would be lost without these tools. So first up on our essentials list, obviously your hook is going to be one of the most important things you need. And personally for me, my favorite are the Clover Amour hooks. I just love these. I love how they feel in my hand. I think they are so comfy, and I love the price point of these. I can get these for around $10, and I think that is absolutely incredible. I recently started using the Tulip Etymos as well, and these are very similar to the Clover Amours. They have a nice feel to them. I like how this hook glides, and again, these are around $10 to $12 depending on where you buy them. And I love them. I think they are absolutely great. Next up are these hooks. They don't have a specific name, but I get these from Hobby Lobby, and I don't recall the price. I don't think they're more than like $7. They could be even way less than that. But again, I just love how these feel in my hand. Just keep in mind, I have gotten a couple of these that have some defects in them and my yarn will snag and stuff. But if you find one that is free of defects, I really do enjoy this hook as well. Number 2 is yarn. You can't crochet, well, I guess you could, but I can't make amigurumi without my favorite cotton yarn. Personally, for me, I love this cotton from Hobby Lobby. It is just the perfect weight. This is a worsted weight, which is my preferred weight. It is really nice cotton yarn. I love it. I love how my amigurumi look when I make them with this stuff. I love the color selection that they have. They do have a pretty good amount of colors at the store. I don't have a lot of opportunity to buy yarn online. It's just not available for me. So being able to go to the store and pick up my favorite cotton yarn is so handy and helpful when it comes to making my amigurumi. I only buy this while it is on sale as well. So this is $3.99 normally, and every other week the yarn is 30% off, so it's even cheaper than that. My favorite yarn, wouldn't be able to make amigurumi without this stuff. The next essential that I absolutely need to have is a good pair of scissors. They are super sharp and they just have like a really nice like snap to them. There's something so satisfying about a good snip of the yarn. You know what I mean? I need a super sharp pair of scissors when making amigurumi because I don't want anything to tear my yarn or make my life any harder than it needs to be. And so a nice sharp pair of scissors is a must, but I also have to have travel scissors as well that actually fold up and use them as scissors. These are nice. I throw these into my project bags. I use these a lot when I'm traveling with crochet. And then they also do fold up really nicely. So if you're traveling, you're not going to hurt yourself. If you're flying, these are great to have with all of your crochet things. So then if they're searching in your bags or whatever, no one's going to get poked or anything like that. So a good pair of scissors, whether it be for travel or to be nice and sharp to trim that yarn, is a must. Next up, safety eyes. I do like to embroider eyes, but let's be real, I love safety eyes for my amigurumi. You can get a whole bunch of sizes and styles and things. I have mentioned this in my crochet organization video, but I do like to organize all of my safety eyes in these really cool containers. This is called the Really Useful Box, and it is a series of compartments that I like to store all of my eyes in, and it's just really nice. It's really handy. I have a lot of safety eyes in a bunch of of different sizes. It is a lot easier to just pop in a safety eye than to embroider them. Just keep in mind, if you are gifting your amigurumi to children, especially younger children, I would recommend embroidering the eyes. Safety eyes, although called safety, they can still pop out, they can still pose a choking hazard, and they are definitely not recommended for small children, so keep that in mind. Next up, we have stuffing or polyfill. I personally like to buy the big 5-pound box from Hobby Lobby. I believe it's $15. There is the Polyfill name brand, and there's some other brands out there. So hit up your local craft store or check out some online marketplaces for some stuffing, because you're definitely going to need it when making amigurumi. But I do have a fun little stuffing alternative that I like to use, and that is using all of your yarn scraps. So this bag is all of my yarn scraps while crocheting. I save all of them. And then when I have amassed a bag full of scraps, I actually like to use those scraps to fill amigurumi, but I would maybe use those scraps in an amigurumi that is crocheted in darker yarn, just because if you have a, say, white polar bear and you're trying to stuff it with black scraps, it's gonna show through, but I do like to use all of my scraps once I've accumulated enough. But the last thing on my essentials list is, of course, a darning needle. You're gonna need something to sew up the very end of your project. You might even need to sew on pieces of your amigurumi, and that's where you'll need your darning needle. Now, I know a lot of people like to use these ones that have the bend in them. It's a lot easier for people to get up into the stitches and poke out where they need to go. But personally, for me, those are fine and I do use them, but I like a really sharp tipped darning needle, but that's because I really like to split the fibers while I'm weaving in ends or I am sewing things on. It is just a personal preference for me. I know there's a lot of people who do not like to do that, and splitting the fibers is actually one of their least favorite things to do. So just keep that in mind. Everyone's going to have a different style when it comes to closing up pieces and attaching limbs and pieces and things. And personally, for me, the sharper the darning needle, the better. Let's go ahead and jump into the list of items that I have found that aren't necessary, but have made amigurumi making that much better. And first up is a stuffing fork. Now, a lot of people like to use a lot of different things to stuff amigurumi. I know a lot of people like to use pencils, and that is such an available tool to use to stuff. So if you have like a colored pencil or a pencil with an eraser especially available for you, that really helps to get that stuffing in there. People like to use chopsticks or, skewers of all kinds. I personally like to put hot glue on my chopsticks because I just find that it kind of sticks a little bit better to the stuffing. But recently I decided to buy a pack of these little wooden bamboo forks. These are appetizer forks. So you would use these I don't know if you have the little smokies or any kind of appetizer. It's like a toothpick, but fork form. But I have found because of the fork shape, it really helps to push that stuffing exactly where you need it to be. It grabs onto the stuffing really nicely. It's just great. Many times I've used chopsticks or pencils and I've tried to stuff something and it just goes right through the stuffing, and it takes a lot of work to actually get the skewer or the chopstick or whatever you're using to really grab a hold of the stuffing. But once I started using these little appetizer forks, it just stuffs right in there. It grabs all of the stuffing. It's great. I love it. I highly recommend you check these out. Next up on my list of you don't need them, but they're nice to have, stitch markers. Now you're probably wondering, Sonnet, why is this not considered an essential? And that is because I actually started making amigurumi without stitch markers. I just used a piece of scrap yarn to hold my place. So if you're just getting started into amigurumi making, you don't necessarily need to invest in stitch markers. But if it is a hobby that you are wanting to continue and you're hooked on crochet, I would absolutely recommend you get some stitch markers. I've tried them all. I started off with these kind of plasticky ones here, but I found they were leaving holes in my work. So I quickly switched to the light bulb shaped ones. And these are the stitch markers that I do prefer to use. They don't leave holes in my projects. A game changer once you actually do start using them. My number 9 tool for making amigurumi is going to be a stitch counter or a counter of some kind. Now, when I started making amigurumi, I actually just used a notebook and a pencil to write down what row I was on, how many stitches I've done, all of that good stuff. I didn't invest in any kind of stitch counters for a little while, but I do love these little finger ones. These are nice because you just push the button and you can keep track of all of the rows that you do or stitches that you need to do. And if you need to reset, this button right here does that for you, and you can start all over. The set that I bought came with a whole bunch of them, so I like to throw them in project bags and whatnot. Now, there's also a lot of counting apps on phones and tablets and things, and those are nice to use as well. So if you would rather just use your phone, or there's even watch apps that you can use, those are available to use. Personally, I don't like to use the phone counting ones, and that's because a lot of times I have my digital pattern pulled up on my phone while I'm crocheting, and the last thing I want to do is exit out of my pattern to go to my row counting app, and my watch apps don't work great all the time, so that is why I like to use the manual finger counter, or again, I'll just use a piece of paper. Which leads me to the last tool I want to talk about, and that is the safety eye jig or gizmo or whatever you want to call it. I got this one from Gurumi Supply on Etsy, and what this does is this just helps you place your safety eyes so much easier in your crocheted piece. So many times you're hurting your fingers, you're breaking your nails, really trying to get those backs of the safety eyes into your crocheted work, and a tool like this really helps to make sure that the eye is placed nicely into your crocheted piece. But that's it. Those are all of the amigurumi supplies that I love to use, all of the ones that are necessary for me whenever I'm making a crocheted plushie. We all crochet differently, so if you have any tools that you want to share, be sure to let me know down in the comments below. But that is all I have to say about that. Thank you so much for being here. I love you so much. You guys are so wonderful, and I will see you all a little later. Bye.